Paul is amazing, and like I said before, he is not only been in customer success for a bajillion years, he's also done implementations of different customer success software. So, everyone, how many times have you done customer success systems implementation?
I was the first CSM at Gainsight, so I've done a lot there. This is my 6th CSM team I've built at various companies. So I've put in a lot of systems, both software and various other software platforms. Mostly it's just about the processes, right, and the building systems on top. So I said the processes, then putting systems on top of them, and people, most of all. Investing in my teams to help them do it, right, and teach them to do it.
So we're going to focus on what makes an implementation of customer success systems successful. Why do you say process?
Aligning on those processes and how you measure them, and the people too, having smart people put in those processes, but getting everybody starting to understand a cadence around what they're doing and building their processes is what makes this, what's really makes this successful software. I worked with a lot of, especially at Gainsight and companies that I had to learn tough lessons from doing it myself, where I said, all we need to do is put it in a software, right? If we put it in Salesforce, if we put it in whatever tool, it'll come, and then you realize you have this big tool that you're paying monthly for, and if you're the VP doing that, you're sitting on a budget and it's going nowhere. And Jeanette was supposed to be speaking with you here with me. She's a great example of one of my customers that did it well. She ran an incredible NPS process. It was down measurements, everything, but she didn't have a tool. She just had a couple ad hoc tools she was using, and she wanted a way to measure it. It's a good example. She had a process, she had her team aligned around it, she had ways to measure it, but she didn't have a way to bring it all together. So when she put the software in, she knew what she wanted, she knew what her immediate win was, so she could validate the ROI of the platform she's putting in. Her team was aligned on it, because let's face it, the number one challenge that all you guys have is change management. And it is the biggest thing that we have as CSMs, is our biggest challenge. And so if you're putting new software for yourself, your teams are going to go through that same thing, because, believe me, I've seen it, where they are used to doing things on spreadsheet. I have my way of doing it. I don't want to go do it in whatever tool, because now you can measure me and see what I'm doing, and that scares the hell out of me. And there's a lot of pieces that go with that. So I think, understanding the processes, letting everybody know how and understand how the tool's going to better that process.
So I want to take a step back and ask, you have worked for big companies like Marketo, you've worked for smaller companies, startups. What is the right time to start looking at potentially acquiring a customer success system?
For me, it's starting with the people. Understanding that your people are ready is by, are they doing some of the same things? Can you measure what they're doing without it? I mean, Alvin could attest, we didn't have a software. We did a lot of it we still do in Salesforce. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to invest in a software soon. But I know our processes, our cadence, I can measure that. I can measure what we're doing with customers. I can measure the impact, both in a health score and in other pieces. More importantly, the stuff I want to bring in to the tool we're going to use, I've already aligned with my other departments, so I don't have to go fight that battle when I'm paying for a software. And I see a lot of companies do that. I'm going to bring in the software, then I'm going to go try to fight with my product marketing team or my engineering team to bring in the metrics, right? And you're fighting that battle. For me, my first priority as an executive leader is to align with my other teams. In fact, my other teams are now measuring my CS team. It's one of the things, so our OKRs are measured by the other teams. So we start talking to them about customer measurements, and Alvin actually was a big part of this when we worked on my team, was helping them with like mixed panel and using intercom and building those out and explaining the benefit to my other teams. So now when I go layered process on top of that, they're like, it's already there. So now they want to connect with us because then they have one dashboard. They don't have to go to 7 screens to look at it. So it takes a lot of the effort out. If I have my processes, my team alignment in, then I can overlay a software that not only benefits my team, but the rest of the organization.
So would you recommend first being able to even track things in Excel, for example? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, I mean, if it has to be Excel, do that. I mean, Humanity, we had a homegrown system that was really half-baked. We did a lot of it in Excel, but it was one shared dashboard that we made out of Excel that worked across the team for onboarding, which we were able to decrease our onboarding time. For our health score, we built that out manually. We did some measurements. We managed to get mixed paneling through an act of kindness from my product team. got that in so we could build measurements and dashboards around that we artificially brought into our things. We did it, and we did it well, and we brought in a platform to start to measure it from. Worked really well, really well.
It sounds like you had some successes implementing customer success systems.
Had my failures.
All right. As a learning from that, what do you think made a difference in how you implemented it to make sure that the team actually uses it?
Make them part of the implementation. So I'm a really big proponent of aligning my team with different divisions, right? So I have one of my CSMs that aligns with marketing. I have another CSM that aligns with product. I have another CSM that'll align with sales. I tend to lean more to the sales side. So they all kind of work as a liaison, but they also bring benefits to those different teams. So when we go to put the platform in, we're explaining that benefit. We're aligning on, okay, what measurements you mentioned, trying to find out what measurement was important was doing that before. So I try to do that before I bring in the software platform. So if it is, like I've seen companies where it's exactly the same challenge you have, right, where it stays perpetually logged in. Well, and I learned that the hard way at Marketo. We had the same problem. So we learned other measurements, and you'll learn it's not one measurement. It's usually a combination of like 8 or 9 measurements. But if you get the smart people that understand the product, and you have a team member that's aligned with them and really understands them, you can start to get way ahead of that, right? And start to build measurement. And a good example was when I was at Marketo, I stared at a spreadsheet till my eyes were like falling out of my head, just trying to understand it. And the product guy came up behind me and goes, if you look at these 3 measurements, and that'll lead to this. And I started going, well, okay, then now we can start to understand what a nurturing campaign is going to do. And that turned out that really was one of the key indicators of success in our platform. So by aligning with them and understanding helps a lot.
How do you measure the value and the ROI of implementing the system itself? How do you justify for it?
Well, I think the easiest justify was, I actually followed one of the methodologies that Dan did immediately. Dan Steinman I worked for him at Marketo, and I actually seen quite a few people do this now. And, sitting in, now that I have to sit at that big table and have to justify things, you can go and look at other inherent systems that different teams have. Right? Sales team has a software, marketing has whatever platform they have. That's the first way to justify it, right? Then the second piece is, what is the ROI our team's going to get for it? But not only my team, the rest of the company, right? So it's not only my team that I'm justifying it for. It's, okay, we're looking at Mixpanel, we're looking at Intercom, we're looking at this other tool and this other tool. What if we brought that in and created one global dashboard that includes input from like Zendesk? It includes all these other things that you can bring in and show value. And it's worked really successfully.
It sounds like before you got the system, you actually defined the metrics and had a sense for what kind of value you're going to get. Can you tell me a little bit more about when you had to request the budget for a system?
It's never easy, right? You're asking for dollars. I think, one of the key things you want to do early on is align what your CFO has, at least hopefully your executive does. I meet with my CFO on a weekly basis, right, to understand churn, talk about expansion, but also talk about the metrics my team does that leads to that, right? I've had, I won't say who the CEOs were in the past as a CSM, walk up to me and say, what do you do? You're the guy that's Mr. Nice Guy, that's all you do is just talk to people. And it's like, you start to build, so if you start to explain, this is actually what we do, this is the impact we're having on customers, and by the way, I'll actually tell a story around this.
Yeah.
These are the customers at risk. I actually had a CEO walk up to me not too long ago at one of the companies I work for and say, I don't like the red account list because it makes me feel like our customers are bleeding. I'm like, well, if they're red, aren't they? That's a good representation of doing my job. And it's true, right? It's having measurements like that, then being able to show what the action plans are. So be able to show, okay, here's my playbook for our red accounts act, right? What is your playbook that's going to be that? Now, how do we measure that playbook? Well, let me show you, right? Then you can start to say, okay, not only do I have a process, but if I put it in a tool, I can better that process. And I can bring other teams and show their impact on that process. So start to explain down to the metrics, and CEOs love metrics, right? So they want to see what your team is doing and start to be able to show, these are the actions that are taking place, this is how I measure it, and how I can measure the outcomes. And ultimately, it's the outcomes that are going to drive the ROI of the platform and get you the budget, right? Because you can justify what your team is doing, and the second benefit is it allows me to add headcount.
So not only you're showing the problem, but also what is your plan to make it better? Do you also have to show the value now?
You can do that without a tool in many different ways, right? I think really
Just to get the budget, I mean.
Yeah, so I can get the budget now, this is what we're doing, but I can talk to you, and a lot of this is just from experience of where we can go with it, right? And how we can better the process. One of the key things really for me is what does it mean for the company and how can I show that it's going to drive the ROI of my customers and measure it and be able to measure even to the software level. If we implement a change, what is that going to do? If we're running a customer marketing campaign, how is that going to affect our customer base? So start to understand we can pull levers. One of the things that I think works really well by looking at it on a global basis of an organization is I can start to tie in the impact of other departments on the usage of our customers. That's how I justified it at Humanity was, we're running customer marketing campaigns, do you know what they're doing for the customer? I have a good idea, but I have no way to validate that. So then the marketing guy's like, that would be great if I could measure if we do a webinar on whatever, we do one on reporting, and we had like 800 people there, and I saw like a 60% increase in our reporting object, and they're like, holy crap, and the product team's like, holy crap, and they're like, yeah, we can measure this now, and so pretty soon the budget opened it up more so we could bring in other modules for the platform we use.
So I think you just answered my next question. Have you ever collaborated with other departments in order to get the budget that you wanted for the system? So marketing is one of them?
Marketing, product, and that's why I align my CSMs, right? So the closer we get to those other departments, the better we are with them, right? So like my CS team participates in our customer marketing, they participate in product, are really tightly aligned with product. And they do it more as a group, as one-on-one, but they bring it back to their group.
So some folks that registered wanted to know about total cost. not in the sense of dollars, but what should you expect beyond the cost of the software? What should you brace yourself for?
The time and commitment to really get it rolled out, I think, is the big one, right? So I'm all about small chunks when I bring a software platform, so choose some easy wins so you can show an ROI quickly. That's probably the first advice. Take some low-hanging fruit. For me, one of the lowest hanging fruit is an NPS program, right? So we put that in. It's really easy to measure, really easy to justify. You can find a platform to do that. I have a couple. I have one that I've used regularly, and immediately that you can show the impact. It's a great way to align with your other teams too. Get them to participate in the survey, manage them so they'll take over the survey. But get them to participate, then you can get some small wins. So when you start to grow your platform, and even stuff like Intercom and other tools you can bring in to measure the data are great ways to get wins, and you don't have to pay for those, right? So if you can participate and they want to use Mixpanel, for example, with like we do, product pays for that out of their budget. It's a win for me because I'm going to take the data from it. But we started to talk to them about what our customers are doing, start to measure how we can build our programs around what we're seeing for them. The benefit for them was if we try something new in the product, we can align around that, measure it, and then we can kind of build our tactical plan around it and start to show the impact to get them feedback around it. That was a huge win for us, right? So they paid for the software. We drove success of our software and those new features that we've been asking for, and we can measure. So when we bring that in, bring our tool in, now we can say, okay, as I said earlier, bring in multiple tools into one platform.
That's awesome. So it sounds like surveys could be one. And I think you mentioned that because even if you don't have usage data, that's something that you can get value from quite immediately.
Support's another one. Everybody has a support platform. It's a great metric, right? Don't look at the guys that are doing a lot. Those are guys that want help. That's a good thing. Sell training. Guys that are asking for, so if they're bugging you a lot, those are the ones that I want to sell training, find out, or if it's a technical issue, make sure you're on top of it. The people, so try to find a median, and those that are not speaking to you at all, that's who I'd be reaching out to. It's the quiet ones that make me nervous.
What about one-to-many programs? Can you elaborate some of the things that you've done with the CS operating system?
Yeah, so what I gave a great example a moment ago, is running customers marketing. So we aligned with customer marketing, built several programs around different features, different functionalities that we knew we had customers. Then what we said is, instead of us talking about how they should use our software, we said, why don't we find a great customer that's using the software and have them do the webinar for us? And so we found, when I say humanity, we found this little bicycle shop. She has like 10 bicycle shops. She said, I'd be happy to. What do you want me to talk about? And we're like, I don't know, pick a topic. But we're not going to rehearse it, and we're just going to have you talk about it. So she talked about the measurement, how she would measure her team's performance and be able to bring in the right team at peak hours and how that influenced her business. Totally off script. I was worried as all hell what she was going to say. But she talked about, we had like 950 people attend that webinar, 950 individuals. Our usage of reporting for the next like 2 months shot through the roof, and people were asking my team for how to build different reports, how to do that, which what we led to, for those customers, we had several early renewals. We ended up building some modules around reporting that people ended up buying, so it drove to more revenue. My CEO was really happy with it. Then we had to start managing. We were getting too many requests for these things, so we had to start creating the cadence of them. But our cadence, after it settled down, we were able to keep make it repetitive. We had about 500 people attend on a regular basis. We did it monthly, and we just picked different customers that led, those customers were happy. We could target businesses that we were going to go sell into, so it led to a sales alignment.
You can do that with a marketing campaign tool. Why CSM operation? Like why?
Well, they did a lot of it, but so it was them. That's why you like marketing, right? They used their tool to blast it out. We picked the customer. We picked who we wanted to do. We kind of led them to the direction of what we wanted to talk about, because the CS team knows.
Flushed out the topics you wanted to go after. The marketing team did the marketing campaigns, and then the results were fed back to the CSMs.
Yeah, we're fed into our measurement systems across all the different departments. So then that led to a whole other area where we started aligning with sales. What do you guys? Are there verticals you're looking at, right? So then we could go to sales and say, what vertical? We'll find a customer for it, and we'll have them do a webinar on something special that they're doing. And so pretty soon it started connecting the dots around the organization.
Talk about data. Where do you store it? What's the best practices from all the different systems that you've used?
Centralize it is the first thing, wherever you can, right? So that's what's really, really important, is just find the central. There's no right place. It really kind of depends on your organization, right? So my current organization, when everything's in Salesforce, we had our sales team was using Salesforce, and if you're in there, it's going to just be a nasty mess. So we created a CS object. We use Google Docs for all our CS stuff for now. So what I'm doing is building a process where everybody's doing the same thing in Google Docs. And we got that process now is nailed. We're doing really well with it. So CS has their area, sales has their area. That's the first step of leading into a system, right? My CS has their area, they have their object. We have ways we measure things. That's all brought into one. So that's why I'm probably about 4 months away to going and starting to look at what I'm going to bring in as a system, because we've aligned our own object and people recognize it. They go to Successville is what I call it, to go find out where everything is.
So this is not your first rodeo looking for a system. With your experience working with different size companies, have you taken a look at different systems? Kind of like, what do you feel is like the big difference between them, if you can share?
Yeah, I think you have to look at your business model and really kind of define the system that works best for you. When I was at Humanity, Gainsight probably wouldn't have been my first choice at that time. It may be now. That's one of the ones I have to evaluate where they are now. The company I work with is more about enterprise and about processes and looking at like enterprise plans and stuff like that. I'll probably lean more towards Gainsight. I think there's a couple things I would look at to answer your question specifically. Mm-hmm. Your business model, the team you're working with, are they willing to work with you and help you bring in a system, or are they going to just nickel and dime you to death? How are you going to align with them on a growth pattern? So get to know your CSM on their side too, right? Are they going to be a benefit to you? Are they going to look at your ROI first, or are they going to look at their own ROI? I think that's one of the most key things you can look at. If those are a fit, and run with that system. I've looked at it, they're all getting more and more similar. I think some have different plays over the others, some have strengths, some have more benefits in just overall nature of the company. Yeah. Again, I'm a little biased,
So just to wrap up, any kind of major takeaways, if any of these folks are looking into potentially implement the system, any kind of tips or pause?
So I think the biggest tips is align on your team, get them all in the same cadence, make sure that they all agree on the measurements. Of course, as an executive, you're going to have your own measurements, but if they start measuring themselves, It's really important at Gainsight. One of the biggest things that we did, I think, really, and we did this at 𝘧𝘧𝘧, so it wasn't even Gainsight. Before we brought in a tool, Dan made us have a mutiny meeting. It was just the CSMs without the executive. I do that to this day. But we started measuring on ourselves.
A mutiny meeting?
Yeah, that's what we called it. It was basically the CSMs met without
any managers.
No managers, just the CSMs. And
The
agenda was really to kind of develop what are our processes, how are we going to drive it, what challenges are we having, putting together items that we're going to measure ourselves by. And we took that. So that would be one of the key things is get together as a CS team and start to develop what you're doing and what your thoughts are. Then take it to your manager and be proactive about it, right? As a CSM, I think that's the best thing you can do. One, for your own career, right? Nothing but rule number one in the Paul Piazza management book, and this is what was passed on to me by one of my mentors, is always be a step ahead of your manager, right? So if my team, and Alvin's probably heard this repeatedly, is be a step ahead of me, is because if they come to me with ideas that I'm not thinking about, that I should be thinking about, I better be freaking listening. And that's how I learn as an executive, right? So that's what I look for. And then my teams have done that, and my one-page team definitely does that on a daily basis, comes up with new ideas on, and when we think about it, and they usually come to me with the process and how we're gonna measure it. So then it's like, okay, great. So what are we doing internally? And now they're even at the point where, well, we've already talked to the product, we've already kind of aligned it, we're already moving forward. So that's how I know I'm ready to bring in a tool, because I'll break out I don't have to own it, right? Each one of the CSMs will own a little piece of it that'll create the whole.
Anything you wish you knew before you implemented your first customer success operating system?
Patience, lots of patience. Because it's never perfect. That's probably the first thing. And I think the biggest item to learn is find some low-hanging fruit to go after that's easy and get some wins for your team and build that trust. Don't wait for the data. Everybody is going to wait forever for the data. Don't make that your key. Have some wins that you can put in quickly. Even if it's CSM processes that you can manage, it'll show what your team is doing. You'll be able to justify ROI your team, hopefully add headcount. You'll be able to bring in measurements like your health score a lot faster. And you don't need to have adoption data for a health score.
Thank you so much for coming, Paul.
My pleasure.